and welcome to the Asheville View. Today we're going to discuss why 40% of workers reported that their job was extremely stressful. It is everywhere around us. Everywhere we look, we're seeing people overworked, underpaid, anxious, and just over it. So today I want to bring to you all stress. Tell me, what makes you stressed?
Well, being a full-time student in a nursing program and working full-time and night shift is extremely stressful. It's like you have to pay rent, you have to eat, you have to sleep, and you have to have good grades, and it's extremely overwhelming, and I think that it makes for a less successful student group.
I just recently read that, most of the food insecurity happens with college students. And that was really alarming to me because we have these students who are pushing forward to gain momentum and have better lives, but their food is insecure. Whether or not they're going to eat, where their next meal is coming from, they don't know.
I had a roommate when I was in school in Tampa, and he ate ramen noodles for every single meal. That's not good for you in any way. And I think we need to break the culture of expensive schooling, expensive housing for students, expensive food, and we really need to give students the time to become the best students they can, because they might be your surgeon. They might be,
That's a really good point.
Your psychologist. You want these people to be educated and have the best experience. So that's stressful.
And I so appreciate that because I see a lot of students in my practice. And the flip side of that, coming from being a little bit more mature, I can share with you that for decades there's been similar stress. Sometimes the seniors look at younger students or younger people and say, yeah, but I had 3 jobs. But I, lived this way. I didn't go on trips. I didn't do the things that, I didn't go to college and spend a semester at sea or in Europe. There are things that are choices, and that's not true for everybody. But there's always been those stresses. And I think the world has become more complex now, not only with the jobs, but also with being on a job and then also having a family. And the children today, as you know, have so much time spending on homework and activities that I think are much more complex than they were a generation ago.
Absolutely. And you mentioned overworked, underpaid, stressed out over it. I'm a high school teacher, and not only it comes with its own stresses, too much work, too many duties, not enough time to do what you're supposed to do, which is teach, which is crazy. You're supposed to be there to teach and to nurture and love and inspire, but you don't have the time to do all of that. It takes away your time from your own kids when you go home and you're too tired for your own kid. And in addition to that, recently is school safety, which is yet another stressor that just throws stress and mental health to a whole nother level, because you never think that you are going to go to do your job, but there's always this, and it's not just if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. There's always this fear and anxiety over how do I do my best to not only love, cherish, inspire, teach, protect their lives. So it's just, it's really a very sore subject for me, because I feel like my stress level is not just at work and balancing work and home and being a parent. It's fighting for your life every day.
Managing a form of terrorism, if
Absolutely.
you will. I mean, I remember when I was teaching, once the weather broke, I wore boots to school every day, like no more high heels, because I was afraid that I never knew when I would have to lead my children out of a building for their safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how are you all, for me, as a business owner, I never know what I'm going to make week to week. I'm trying to project that. I'm out making leads, trying to get leads. I'm trying to feed my family. I'm trying to grow a business. And we have a huge disparity in pay as a woman, as an African American woman. And then in Asheville, we have a very service-led industry that is really built off tourism, and my business isn't necessarily built off tourism. So there's a lot of stress there, but I'm trying my best to deal with that stress through like walking and spending time with friends, coming here to talk about the issues in front of other people. How are you guys dealing with stress?
Well, that's a good question, because one of the things that as we were talking about our stress, I didn't mention that, but as a physician, it's very, very stressful. I mean, you've got people's lives in your hands, and you also run a business, and you don't know how busy you're going to be the next week. Additionally, you know, I teach, I give talks all over the country, and one time I had to sit down and just have a talk with myself and say, this is what you tell your patients, and how are you living your life that way? And I began to reframe the things and think about, yes, work is hard work, but you know what? I love it. And that's what's important, or I can be of service. And the more I looked at it like that, the less stressful it was for me.
So doing work you love.
Yes, and not doing work you don't love. I mean, or delegating it to someone else. Because it's not only the stress that we feel, but women who are stressed in their jobs have 40% more chance of getting heart disease. This is a physical problem too. And I have all kinds of respect for women who have breast cancer and other diseases. But 1 woman out of 31 dies from breast cancer. 1 out of 3 die from heart disease. A woman dies every minute from heart disease, which is exacerbated by stress. If they're depressed after that, within the next 3 to 4 months, they have a 40% chance of dying.
Wow.
So we need to look at it from a health perspective as well.
So what would you guys say? What do we need to do? How do we affect this change? What impact can we make? What are you doing to lessen your stress? How are you making it through your days?
I lessen my stress through cooking, and I know that sounds crazy because I'll work a 12-hour shift, and I'll be like, oh, I get to go home and cook, and they're like, what? There's just something about chopping, the smells, the aromas, cooking, the whole aspect of it that just soothes
Therapeutic,
me, and
yeah,
it's therapeutic
absolutely.
for me, meditative, yeah.
I personally focus, besides all the negativity that is related to what I do, I try to really focus on why else I do it. So I really look at the big picture and I say, somebody's got to do this and we got to do it right. We need to be here for these kids. I have some amazing things. I'm changing lives. I focus on that. I tell myself that all the time. It's also really important for me to get me time. So away from the family, away from my job, I just like to have just alone time. And it doesn't need to be go get a massage. I mean, it's nice to get that too. Or go get a pedicure or whatever. But sometimes just having the house to myself. And I must admit, I love reality TV. So that's my thing that just kind of relaxes me because I get to just completely zone out, and that it works.
The
Whatever
guilty
works.
pleasure.
The guilty pleasure. Exactly.
I know for me, it's about making sure I get my regular checkups from the doctor, spending quality time with my husband. Dr. Norlands has told me I need to have sex. I try to make sure I have a lot of sex. I also try to make sure that I take my walks. And I try to make other people happy. There's something about complimenting other people, giving gifts to other people, and just treating other people well that really rounds off what you're feeling inside. And so that's really what I just try to do. You're watching the Asheville View, and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sharon Norling, and I'm here to answer your questions. One of the questions that I frequently get is, I live such a stressful life, What do I do with this anxiety? Well, number one, I want you to know that you can be tested for neurotransmitters. People say, well, I didn't know you could be tested for neurotransmitters. Yes, you can. And I feel passionate about doing that because if people are suffering from anxiety, depression, difficulty sleeping, lack of focus, pain, or lack of energy, their neurotransmitters are out of balance. But we can test them so we can treat that person as an individual. I think it's shocking that doctors will pull out a prescription pad and write for Zoloft, Paxil, Wellbutrin, Celexa, Abilify, or Prozac without testing. I mean, we wouldn't give insulin to a diabetic unless we knew what the blood sugars were. We wouldn't treat thyroid unless we knew what the blood levels were. We wouldn't put a cast on an arm unless we had an image. So it's important to test the neurotransmitters because your anxiety may be due to low serotonin, low GABA, maybe high cortisol, maybe high norepinephrine. So if you don't know what you're treating, how can you fix it? So I don't write prescriptions for mood-altering pharmaceutical drugs. I use specific targeted nutrient therapies that's already in the body, that the body can help make more of what it needs. It's really important to be treated as an individual because one size fits all doesn't work. Treating the average is just overrated. So if you're stressed, get your neurotransmitters tested, be treated in a natural way, and then you'll be able to deal better with the stressors that are common in all of our lives. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, please just write them to the Asheville View, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
And today our special guest is Laura Hackett, who is a food blogger and food enthusiast, and she's here to help us get rid of some of the stress in our kitchen. She's going to help us save time, money, and food in our kitchen. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Aisha. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
We're so glad to have you here.
So glad to have you.
Yeah.
So food is something that I'm very passionate about, and I can definitely relate to the times of being a broke college student and not having a lot of money for food.
Awesome.
So here are a couple of tips of, it's pretty painful to throw away good food, but you don't know what to do with it. That's kind of a dilemma. So I'll start off with the first one that I learned the other day because we're at the peak of strawberry season. And you know when you're cutting up the strawberries for like a salad and you have all those strawberry heads, you're kind of like, oh, I guess I'll throw this away. Wrong. You can put it in a jar and then just put some simple apple cider vinegar up to the top as how many strawberries there are. Put it, seal the lid, put it in a cupboard, forget about it. A week later, you'll have amazing, tangy, bright strawberry vinegar that you can put into a vinaigrette. You can splash it on like a flatbread, or I don't know, even maybe
Use
dip
it as
some
a dressing,
really,
maybe?
yeah, use it as dressing, dip some really tasty bread in it, you know, ciabatta
Put
or
in a little bit of
something.
salsa if you make some salsa instead of the wine vinegar.
Okay, that's really good. I'm into
Now, is
that,
it
yeah.
sweet or is it just savory and fermented? Like, what's the taste like?
You're essentially just infusing the flavor of the strawberry into the already very like sharp acidic vinegar.
Right,
taste. So,
right.
So both tangy and sweet, I guess a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a way to just preserve that beautiful strawberry.
Oh, what
You
else
know,
do
you
you
don't
have?
throw it
I
away.
know. We're just getting started. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is so cool.
Thanks.
And then you can just put it in the refrigerator after? You just leave it on the,
I just leave it
on the shelf?
So I mean,
Like
this
for
is
how
only-
long?
The vinegar really does the work, yeah.
Yeah, the vinegar is works as a preservative. So yeah, I mean, of course, I didn't say this, but when you're ready to use the vinegar, strain the strawberries out. You know, so you're not getting like weird strawberry brains in your thing. But other than that, yeah. Yeah.
All right, what
So
else
that's
you got?
one. Okay, this is another one. I'm like a mad scientist about this. Save your carrot tops. Save the tops of your beets. Save the tops of everything, and put it in your food processor and make a pesto out of it. So
Oh, even the top, like the root and everything?
like
Everything.
all of
top.
the greens essentially of
Wow.
it. So,
Because that's the most nutritious part of the vegetable anyway.
yeah, and we throw it away. It's so weird, right?
Wow,
Right.
that is really weird.
And because you don't know what to do with it. And you know, granted, traditional pesto is with basil and pine nuts and Parmesan, and that's delicious. And I'm from a very Italian family,
But
so
it's 2019.
it's 2019. Pesto that is, you know, off the beaten path. So I'll use cashews, which can make it really creamy as like that nut base, or walnuts to kind of give it like a, I don't know, brighter flavor. And it's really fun to just mix and match, and it's a great stress reliever in that way too, because you're just making this kind of green, healthy potion of deliciousness to put
Absolutely,
on
like a dip.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What spices do you put?
I will use garlic, of course. Garlic forever.
Garlic.
I got
It's a
you,
family
grandmother
don't
Faye.
stop
all the
garlic.
time. Yes.
Always
Yes.
garlic, salt,
Yes.
pepper, lemon. Those are the basics, I would say.
Yeah.
And if you want to make it vegan, you could do nutritional yeast, which kind of has that nice umami flavor. And then, or you could do a Parmesan, which is the traditional. So I would do a dry cheese, not like a mozzarella. That'd be kind of weird. I would
Right.
say.
Yeah.
But
Mushy.
Mushy,
be mush,
yeah.
yeah. I like it. I think it's great. So.
Okay, what else do you have for
I
us?
know.
That's what I know. I love this. So, you know, when you're just chopping, you're talking about you go in the kitchen, you're chopping, and you have like kind of those gross onion butts or garlic skin or the top of the pepper that's kind of like you don't really want to eat it, but you don't really want it to go to waste. So I recently started saving it all in a plastic bag in the freezer, like one of those zip things. And then once you get about a bag of it accumulated, you can just do a quick saute of it in a big giant stock pot. Fill it up with water and maybe a couple of other herbs and spices that you enjoy, and make a broth, a delicious homemade broth.
Whoa.
Yeah,
yes.
salt to make it
That
broth.
makes
Yes,
sense.
yes, yes, yes.
I like
And
that.
I just like recently discovered how gross like regular store bought broth is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
It's
soul.
pretty gross.
It's
Yes.
bland
And it
not
stinks.
festive.
So
Yes.
that is a really amazing idea.
You can make your own for sure. That's the
Yeah.
best way to do it. But this
Amazing.
is so much easier
You're
too.
so awesome.
You are.
How did you
I'm crazy.
discover all of these wonderful things?
I just kind of felt like they had a use, most likely, and I just didn't know about it. So I just started doing research. There's also some really great chefs in the community, like Katie Button is somebody, the chef of Curate is somebody I personally admire, and she has a waste-free cookbook that she sells in her bagel shop.
Oh, that's
and I read
interesting.
through that and got some inspiration
Wow, I
there.
wanna read
like,
that.
yeah, there was one that was even like you could make crackers out of kale stems, kale and starch stems that you typically throw away. And I
Wow.
just thought it was a great way to really be creative, and it's just a good everything, you know? You're being creative, you're not wasting, you're saving money, and you're showing that things that typically would be thrown away have a purpose. So it's really beautiful.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Yes,
I'm
thank you.
so excited to hear all of these wonderful things because we do know that food waste is the #1 type of waste that, you know, humans have, and it's important. Right? So before we go, we want to hear from Dr. Norlands if you have any final words from us on how can we take these really, you know, healthy tips on how to eat better. How do we take it to the next level with our health? How do we combine those two things?
Well, I thank you so much because many times people will have sautéed vegetables, zucchini, squash, whatever they've had for dinner the night before, and you can blend that into a soup, you know, just
yeah.
like you're talking
Immersion
about.
blender.
So that's not waste. And I think when food and nutrition is so important because when you think about it, the only way we get well, the only way we stay healthy is the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the food you eat. I mean, that's pretty basic.
Medicine.
It's food is medicine. And initially starting out, before we begin to waste the food or possibility of it, is to make sure that we're getting the right food sources. For example, we go to buy an apple and there's a little tag on it, a little, you know, posted on it that says a number on it. And it's important for people to know that if it has 4 in the beginning of the series, that's just conventional and it has a lot of herbs and pesticides in it. If it has a 5, then it's organic, and if it has an 8, it's genetically modified.
Oh, wow.
So
I did
just
not know
starting with that basic information and using, you know, the tips that you've given us, I think would be of service to everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you for watching the Asheville View, and we'll see you next time.